Hi Thomas, how are you today?
Hi, Dharam. I'm quite fine. How are you?
Good, very good. Good to see you again.
Good to see you. Yeah. So I heard you had some good workshops today. Some meetings with people, with students.
Yeah, I just finished the class. Normally my class, of course, planned time, but normally go over time. But yeah, so I like to make
Yeah.
sure that we don't stop just because we have the time, but more when the value delivery is finished. So by
Yeah.
doing projectization, that's where, we will see that. So the topic today is projectification on social projects globally.
Yeah.
So my first question, the starting question is, how does projectification impact societal development and influence the global adaptation of project management practices?
Yeah. Well, let me share an experience I had. Only 4 years ago, before Corona, I was in Curitiba, Brazil,
Uh-huh.
and it's a chapter there, and they invited me over the weekend, and on Sunday they had an event. When they in a barbecue country club setting, they invited about 10 NGOs, local NGOs, social things, and the purpose of the whole thing was that each of the 10 NGOs, and they were represented by one or two or three people, and they sat at a table together with one volunteer from the chapter. And what they did, they all had a big sheet of paper in front of them on the table. It was a project canvas,
Okay.
and they together discussed about what is their most important activity project, and this is a good example for me about talking about that topic. What does projectification mean for the social societal development? Because uh, these chapter volunteers, they were like mentors, like coaches, helping them to understand what a project is and what it means in terms of the canvas, and really practically come out with a canvas to make it clearer to them that how to proceed in their way of spending efforts, spending money, whatever they did. And there were different kinds of NGOs actually on in that, and I was impressed by that. So we had some. I did a small ad hoc speech then, and encouraged them, and it went the full day, and we had a barbecue also.
So, that's actually a very good example, especially when you talk about these NGOs. They are the one who need the social, they have social response. They take this project for helping communities,
Yes.
whether homeless people, whether women or underprivileged people. So they have a lot of responsibility. And of course, they volunteer, but
Yes.
at the same time, they get funding from, outside, like government funding or people funding. And now utilization of funding is very important. How you utilize and get the best maximum value to the beneficiaries.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and if you can do projectize it, using the project management methodology or some kind of structure that helps you to understand or define the requirements, scope, then what resources we need, and have some timeline so you can track and you can see how the output will convert into the benefits, and when the
Yeah.
value will be delivered to this end user in this case.
Yeah. And another example I want to mention, is from the PMI Germany chapter, actually. So there is a local group in Munich, and they have established a social responsibility program, which
Mm.
means that chapter volunteers help NGOs outside of PMI, help NGOs to do something. And they had one big project that's really amazing me, is that there is an NGO who is running houses for women which have problems in their family, and they can flee to that house and live there with their kids for some time. And they have about 15 of these houses in Munich alone, maybe a thousand women being covered. And with this amount of money, they said, okay, we have to improve our software coming from Excel, because we we have to know who these guys are, who is here in our house, how long are they there, and by the way, it has to be very secure because we don't want to be hacked and these names being publicized. So what the chapter did, they sent in a team of 3 or 4 volunteers, and they did the implementation project for the new software. And it includes also teaching the NGO volunteers to use the software properly, and how to do that, now setting up the server and all this stuff. What do you think of a software project? If you implement an off-the-shelf project, and you do that. This was the second thing that came to my mind. Where we, through projects, help social organizations to improve better and to use project management as something. So thinking about the term projectification, and we have a common friend, Reinhard from Germany, and he wrote some articles about projectification, which are published on David Pell's website. Very interesting. And from his articles, I got the information that the term projectification was first mentioned by a guy called Christoph Midler in 1995, and actually he was using it. He was working for the automotive company Renault in France, and he was mentioning that in Renault they are using more and more projects to do the work. So, and he invented that a word for that, and that was I think he invented it in French language, projectification or whatever, and that's what he did. So, if the amount or the percentage of projects in a social context, in economic context, or as a government context increases, we talk about projectification since then, and we see that. So, what also from the research in Germany, there was a research how many percentage of GDP is created through projects. And if you look back 40 years, it was not so much. Everything was, business as usual and manufacturing and all this stuff, and not so many projects were around. But now the estimation is that 40% of the German GDP in 2019, which is 4 years ago, is created through projects. And I saw a similar statistics in the UK. It was also about 40%, So, well, these are developed countries, and a lot of project management is in there. And nevertheless, it's a big deal in average. When you imagine that there are still industries who don't use a lot of projects, if you are in agriculture or so, I think they only have 4 to 5% projects, and the rest is agriculture. You seed, you nurture, you harvest, all this stuff, and they not yet have translated that into a project context. So so I think this is projectification, and it certainly is applicable to all areas of our life.
Exactly. We know how important it is, doing things considering as a project, then the results can be different. And you talked about some numbers, GDP for Germany, for UK, and published in the PMIs. They also talk about how much work is done as a project. Yes, a lot of work is happening as a project, but still, many areas need to learn and utilize the project management and do things better. And that that there are benefits. They probably don't realize at the moment because of whatever. But if agriculture, if they can run this as a project, of course, you have to have 4 crops in a year, and how to make sure you are planting. Of course, as a farmer, they know what to do. But how can you sustain the same level of income, even though the rain and this can be there? Identifying the risk as early as possible, and what can you do to mitigate the risk? So this is part of project management. So,
it's if you have things that you use in project management, like risk management, and you use it elsewhere, but without the full context of project management. I think you cannot really talk about that they are doing projects. They are doing part of project management. They're using some of the tools and techniques, but it's not the principle of project management that you have, that it's goal oriented. You have a goal, you want to be effective, you plan for it and you control somehow, and you reduce insecurity for all the stakeholders. So that's the top-down approach for projects. And then you might use tools like estimating or risk management or whatever, and if you just extracted these tools out of project management and put it somewhere, it might be useful, but I don't think it would count for projectification, because you don't have a charter, and all the stuff around, So if you're talking about societies, and then maybe it's worthwhile thinking and having a common understanding about what a society is comprised of, what we are looking at. So if you're talking about GDP, we are clearly looking at this part of society, so the private part of society, where we say these are companies earning profits for their owners, for their shareholders. So this is GDP. And it's one part of society, the private sector, if you say so. And then we have the public sector, which is mainly governments, And if you look at governments, especially if you look at German governments, and think about project management, they are not, well, they have some projects, or what they call projects, but it's rather not projectized, because governments are a little bit driven by elections. There's the election cycle, and then you do something within that, and they are driven by an annual cycle of budgeting and so on. So especially in Germany, the concept of project is well, let's say, introduced into government, but government is not using the concept too much, as to my dismay. And there is one big conference in Berlin every year, and PMI attends this, and IPMA attends this, and they are trying to bring forward projects. But what you see discussed there is politics. It's not so much how can we improve our project. And then the other thing in projects in government is, so if they fail miserably, in our terms of economic failure of a project, it might be a huge success in government terms. Look at Sydney Opera House, look at the Berlin Airport, look at the Hamburg Philharmonic. These are public projects, and a lot of public money goes in there. And maybe they burn 5 or 6 project managers, because of apparent unsuccessfulness. But then after they are going live, they are there now. Everybody's happy. It's a huge success. So it's interesting in this public part. The perception on projects and their products changes over the years, and these are all big things. Look at Olympics. Olympic Games. They always have used more money than they planned for, but all Olympic Games were delivered on time. Because they started this day, and they finished just before that day, maybe an hour before. They finished with all the stuff that could be done, and maybe shifting the scope a bit, But it's a huge success in terms of scheduling, if you want. It's a huge failure in terms of budgeting, because they always cost more. But if you look at the national pride coming out of that, and the reputation error, it's a huge success. So Olympic Games is therefore, in summary, a huge success, even if some components are not there. And you could even argue that Olympic Games, they do projects, that's for sure. The whole thing, big program, and a lot of project construction work, and running the games, and bringing in the volunteers. Though it's a huge thing.
That has to be a projectized, right? Cannot. But there are many areas where projectification can happen, and then
And then let me just complete that, and I think it's quick. So I said society now has the private part, the companies, economy, the public part, governments, and then it has a social part, social sector, which is, for instance, the NGOs. We already mentioned. So we talked about NGOs, and most NGOs don't do project management very well, and they can't be really considered to be projectized so much,
Yeah, good. Thank you. So the next question is, what are the requirements of the public sector regarding project portfolio management?
Yeah, well, the public sector has a different life cycle, programs or project. And this life cycle is, as I said, public sector, there are elections, and maybe there are federal elections and state elections and communal elections. So it's always people are much enthusiastic about doing something and creating new projects and bringing them into the portfolio. And then there are people who want to be re-elected. They are very cautious. They are bringing it down. They are trying not to share so much. So this is one big requirement, because the whole portfolio has to acknowledge these kind of business cycles, which are different from business cycle in the economies, because maybe that's quarter figures you publish, or full years profits you publish. But in governments, that's quite overlapping and more. And there are times and years, as you know, with the American president, the last 2 years of his term, if he lost the elections in the Congress, they are called sitting ducks. They cannot do much. So although the projects they can create are of a special size. So nevertheless, I think what at least internally is important, that they have a dashboard of things that they plan for, and then they say, okay, we can't do that because of elections or whatever. But they have something, and then they are creating projects, and they're putting them into a dashboard in a list and prioritize them. Only these criteria change a lot, and maybe that's different from business portfolios.
Yeah, and you mentioned very well, good point, like having a dashboard where you can see, at the country level. So there are so many projects going on, mega millions of billions of dollars being spent, but the accountability point of view, the citizen or taxpayer need to know what's happening, what project we're doing, why we're doing, what is the status of those projects, are we making money or not? They don't make money, but are we going to deliver? Are you going to deliver the expected benefit to the citizens?
Yeah, and just something came to my mind, reading a year or two ago about an East European government, and they have a kind of dashboard and portfolio, and they approve for projects. And actually, they approve for projects, but the project they get approved has a totally different scope from what is published. And if you now see at the war games we have on, I doubt that anybody in the public space has information what's going on in these war games, because it's confidential, and you don't want to share with the enemy and everything. So I think the portfolio for a government in these times is partly or widely confidential, and they don't share it. And there are some things they have to share with Congress or Parliament, or however you call it, because it has to be approved. And even these can be mislabeled, and they are mislabeled. Interestingly, in the year 2006, I was in Norway.
Yeah.
I learned that Norway, they have a king and have a parliament.
Yeah.
And in 2006, the Norwegian parliament and the king has to sign every charter of a major project in Norway, which is government. So if you build a big bridge over a fjord or whatever, and it costs so and so much, the king had to sign this charter. And so it was very public, because before the king signed, he asked Parliament, "Can I do that?" And all this stuff. So it created a whole bunch of visibility, transparency to the people, and it also enabled the appropriate people to scrutinize the project, because you have a charter, you have milestones in there and budgets in there, and then you can send in somebody, like the IRS or whatever, what the Norwegians have, we can let's do an audit, and then you are much more scrutinized. But it was interesting for Norway, and I think some countries also have established this kind of scrutiny.
And that's very important, actually, having vigilance. You have right tools to track, and you can pay attention to something not working out, and you can expedite or delay it if required. So if no visibility or lack of visibility, you don't know what is actually happening.
Yeah.
And you're relying on some Excel-based spreadsheets or other thing, which is manipulated data, and not good enough.
Right. Well, it's one thing that you use Excel sheets and all this stuff. The other thing is that in government, everything is documented. You have your documents, and it can be it should not be deleted by law, but and it can be reproduced after 20 years, and it is. Though it's not maybe in Excel sheets, but in written Word documents or whatever, and they are stored somewhere in a hidden cupboard, but it's available.
Yeah. All right. Good. So what does the public sector face as the main project management challenges? What challenges are you talking?
Yeah. Well, there are several big challenges that distinguish the public sector from what we know, the private sector that is using projects in a good way. So I think the purpose of the public sector is not the same purpose as for the private sector.
Yeah.
The purpose is not to be effective, to make profits.
Yeah.
There are different purposes, and I don't expand on that, because it's also different from, let's say, from country to country, from government to government. What the purpose is, why are we doing this stuff, and there's also a lack of accountability. So the guy who signs the project, except from the Norwegian king, normally he is no longer in office when the project finishes. So what does he care? He can make decisions and so on. It's no personal accountability, except when he is breaking the law somewhere along the road. But they are also very savvy not to break any laws publicly. And then what I find out personally, the government is also structured very hierarchically in silos. So I once talked to the CIO of a German federal ministry, and we talked about why not bring all his people to PMP, to PMI. He said, I like that. And the main reason why he liked that is because he can compete with his fellow ministries. So he didn't want it for the whole government, but for his ministry, because he said, I want to be better than the ministry of some. So they are silos. They don't like each other. They fight each other. So there is really it's a problem, because, as you know, in companies, when you have silos, we say that's contradicting projects, because we have to do projects cross-departmental, and a PMO is trying to integrate all the stuff. That's not the case in government at all. And it's not only on the federal level in the ministries we have that. In US, you could say Department of Defense is not talking with Department of Energy or whatever, and they are fighting each other. So in Germany, it's also, we have the federal level, we have the state level, and then the states are also fighting each other. And they don't want to obey what the federal government says. They have their own turf. And then you go one level down, the communal level, and they don't have money. They need money, but they don't listen to federal or to the state government. So there is a lot of energy wasted in government on inter-silo competition. Let me put it this way, and that is really a main project management challenge, and you cannot overcome this easily, because we are talking digitization in government in Germany since 30 years, and nothing happens.
Yeah.
Where does it happen? In small countries. So if you go to Estonia, they are 95% digitized. But it's already, how many people do they have? 2 or 3 million, and one country, it's easy. Or you go to Latin America, the country of Uruguay. I don't know if you know that. They have, I think, 4 or 5 million people, and they are totally digitized.
Wow.
Because they can do that, because it's easy. It's a not a black box, but it's a containable system. So the size of countries and the size and the structure of governments plays a major role in what you can do with projects.
Yeah. All right. So how can a government organization implement project management culture effectively?
Well, yeah, it's similar to what companies can do. You have to train your employees and your management, that they understand what's coming.
Yeah.
You have to hopefully establish a kind of structure like a PMO, to set and control the standards what you have, to become more efficient. You have to demand your partners and your contractors to adapt to your new processes or whatever we do. And in the end, you also have, as a first step, to understand what your goals with project management are. Is it transparency? Is it efficiency? What is it? You want to achieve, because that's needed to set up the PMO and to guide the PMO in the right direction.
Yeah. I mean, setting PMO and process is good, but I think the difference, the main worry is the people mindset, because they're used to of going, slow and steady, and but here we are looking for project management. We have to have the mindset change. People are ready to adopt and going to do the work and measurable work. So we need to establish some, of course, dashboard as a thing. But more important is, as a project manager, program manager, you have to take the stakeholder through the journey, the change management, organizational change management, mindset change, some team building activities, some speeches, and all these things required for, to take them from here to there. We can't just blame, hey, these people are lazy, they don't listen. No, it is your job to understand who these people are, what their expectations are. Are they smart? Are they tech savvy, or they're still living in 20th century? They would like to have fax or email, or they're okay with the new dashboard kind of information. And after you analyze, that's where we do the stakeholder analysis and understanding about them and build the plan. Then you say which organizational change management strategy will work here, and take them through journey. It's not about, hey guys, go and do that. You have to do it. You take them journey and give them time to improve and get used to of this new way of doing things, and appreciate them. And because it's effort, they're coming from different way of doing things, so new way of doing things. They are putting efforts, and they are learning, and they are getting better and better.
Yeah, this can work, and it's similar to what we do in companies.
Exactly.
Companies, but there's a difference to the public sector, in that in Germany, at least, they are all state employees.
Yeah.
And are paid by the state, and the state promised them to have a lifelong employment and get the money. So let's say their focus is not on efficiency, their focus is on staying employed and doing the stuff. So I think the motivation of these guys is maybe regarding their purpose, maybe serve the inhabitants of the city or whatever. but it's not so much towards, how we work better, and that's an additional difficulty in change management for government agencies.
Yeah, and that's what, as a change manager or a program manager, project manager, you do need to spend time to understand your stakeholder, in this case state government. Your motivation, their motivation is, okay, I have a lifelong job and something, I don't have to worry. But your job is to create the urgency there. Yes, they are lazy, they are not ready for change, but that's what your job is. That's what you paid for. So understand who they are and what strategy will work. Maybe they need some kind of rewards and recognition within that. Maybe as good as giving them a gift card for doing something which is their job. But hey, if you do this consistently, we'll give you more points, more rewards, and you get, I don't know, sometimes cash can work really well.
Yeah, maybe.
So that's a very important point for the change management. Whatever you do, whether private or government, doesn't matter. You need to understand them, and according to their needs or according to their attitude, you need to come up with your plan.
Yeah.
Okay. How do projects influence society?
Well, yeah, PMI worked on that, for some years, and we have something like the PMI Education Foundation, into that wider range. So PMI at the beginning, they cared about, it was a professional association, and they cared about professionals who are working mostly in private companies. But then, PMIF, they cared about kids and other people, so the whole range. And what I think was a great step forward for them was to invent something like project management is skills for life. So they taught kids in schools projects, and they showed them how it works and how it can improve the success and the satisfaction and all this, and the teamwork. And kids who learned that, they were convinced. So if these kids went into industry, they were prepared for that step to learn about project management. If they went into the public sector, maybe they were frustrated because they understood more about projects than the people they were sent to, and they were there to. But nevertheless, it was important to inseminate the whole population with the terms and understanding of project management, and that's what PMI tried to do, and it was quite successful. And then, the question is, how do projects influence society? What is also not to be underestimated are these reputational lighthouse projects, like Olympic Games, like a Sydney Opera House, things where the public, where society can say, oh, this is very interesting for me, and I like it very much, and let us do that, and we are proud of it. We want more of that, and then you influence society because they say, okay, this is a great thing. How did they do that? Maybe they read about it and they are interested in that, and maybe they work in a company where the PMO and say, oh, look, yeah. But still, I think we have a long way to go until we really have everybody in society. As I said, I'm mentoring people, refugees or other people, and I'm telling them I'm a project manager, but it's not really igniting a fire within them, and if they look at their lives and what they are doing. And today I was mentoring a nurse. She's in hospital, and you could say, okay, everything she's doing with one patient is a project, but no, it's very tailorized. So she is doing this and that and that and that, and there's a plan for it, but she's not in charge of it. So even if they are using some components of project management in this hospital, the individual nurse doesn't feel it as one big project.
All right. How does projectification impact BAU, business as usual operations within organization?
Well, if we look at the private companies, and we heard about the German figures of 40% GDPs is produced by projects. Yeah, projectification means there are more and more projects doing work, and also the projects are not only internal projects to improve something in operations, but they are entering the area of business as usual and operations. And I worked for IBM, in the service business, and in my unit, in my division, our profits came from clients doing projects for clients,
Yeah.
So this was, I would say, 90% projectized, and our business as usual was projects, but that's our division within IBM, and IBM also did hardware where it functions differently, or did outsourcing where it functions differently. Not 100% of IBM was projectized like that, like we were, but other companies, if you are in the service business, you project for clients, and then this is where you really impact operations, because operations is not really existent anymore, yeah, and also projects are improving business as usual, because projects internal, as I say, internal projects that improve the way of working. If you all this let's say ERP implementations, SAP implementations, if you have, you go into a company, say you want to install SAP. Why? Because they want to become more efficient using their employees in more effective way, and that's why change management is also important in these kinds of projects. You have to not only consider the software, but you have to make sure that the software is used appropriately to reach the targets of the project. So this is the second part, where business as usual is being, first it goes down because more projects come up, but then if it survives, it is internally improved. And this will only increase, yes, not through projects, but through AI. If we have more automation, if we have more computers looking at the stuff. If you look at your bank teller, we had a lot of bank tellers sitting at desks. They're all gone. You have a machine now, or you have your mobile phone with your banking app. If you look at in insurance claims, they used to send out people to look at your car if you claim a car accident. Now it's all done through AI tools, because it's just more effective in the end, because even if they have some software which are looking if there is a fraud involved, and so on and so on. Yeah, are you trustworthy? So I think AI will impact business as usual more than project management does, to be honest.
Yeah, so look, projectification from my point of view, if you are running a project and there's a BOE, which they will take care of the outcome of whatever you're doing. So they need to be involved, like BAU people or operation people need to be involved while the project program being done. So they can input what they need from you as a project, and how they can do, when you do the transition, what are the information they need, what training they need, how much money they need. So that if we can structure around that transition, and then we have sustainment plan is there, so the operation plan which they will use it to sustain the benefits. You created the benefit as part of the program project, but these need to be sustained over a period of time. So okay, if we can streamline this process, project, operation team involved, time come, handover happen, and they have a plan to sustain, use this as plan to manage based on the process, or see how we are really doing. So this is the power of projectification. Yeah. Okay, so why has projectification become the default setting of activity?
Has it? Well, it's interesting. I'm just reading a book about from Alexander Prohorov, and he wrote about the Russian management model, and and he's talking about why are Russians totally ineffective in in peace times, but they are totally effective in crisis mode.
Mm.
So the nice model I use, the film Armageddon with Bruce Willis, and they came to have a Russian astronaut on board because they flew along him, and this guy solved every problem very effectively with a hammer.
Oh.
So this is the image I have of a Russian professional. They just do it regarded what it costs, and in ways we would never imagine. So I think, as humans, and Russians are just one part of the humanity, as humans, we have different ways to sustain and to survive and to improve and so on. And I think we use it depending on our culture and our settings. So the same what I'm talking about Russia is now maybe possible about China. So I don't think in China a lot of people rely on project management. Oh, also in China, has the most certifications, PMPs. But China is really huge, and the Chinese way of doing things is not projectized, actually. They are creating stuff, and they are using their Chinese management models and their strategies, and they are hugely successful. So creating a hospital for so many people in 10 days, or what was it? This start of you also,
Time.
You can say it's a project, but they didn't run it as a project. But again, the point I wanted to make is humanity is so big, and we are looking, and project management is coming out of the Western world, and there are other worlds which become more important, and they have different ways of working.
All right. So how do ideas, objects, and practices travel in the global economy?
Well, yeah. Well, they travel virtually, today more and more.
Yeah.
We have a big network around the globe with almost, I think, 5 billion people in the network. So we have communities there. We have papers and articles that are traveling. You can read a lot of things, and if it's in LinkedIn or in other publications which are available, you can buy books and read books. And I'm reading. I think books are very interesting. So I'm just reading, as I said, this one book about the Russian management model, and it's very enlightening. And it's also the physical travel of ideas, objects, and practices, because as you know, even in a project that's working mostly remotely, you have to have some kind of one-to-one meetings at one point of time. Is it a kickoff, or you visit the people, and you have to go to conferences again, and you need the trainings one-on-one, just to build a personal relationship between two humans. Yeah, maybe that's not needed to build that relationship between two AIs.
Yep.
But humans still need that face to face. Maybe smell the other guy and see how his mimics, his gestics, and everything. So I'm trying to move my hands here in front of my face, because I'm used to that. Working with my hands a lot. So you need both things, virtually and physically. That's how it travels, and the drivers to let it travel, to disseminate it, and that's something. The drivers are certainly academia, because academia, if you study something, you want to become a master's or a PhD, you have to publish. And that's one of the KPIs you have to fulfill. The professions, because professions exchange information. They are driving this knowledge sharing, and especially in professions, in project management too, but especially in professions that are related to life and death, like medicine, healthcare,
Mm.
oil and gas, or construction, all these professions. And then you have something that is also driving the exchange or the standardization of ideas objects is regulations, laws and standards. And we are lucky to have some standards, some ISO standards, to look at quality management, risk management, all this stuff, even project management. So because then we can always go back and say, look, that's the smallest common denominator we have, and let's work along this. And then we have, business, the partnerships. If we have a customer and a partner and a contractor, so we are exchanging always information with them. So that's driving information. We also can talk about what is hindering the free flow of ideas, objects, and practices, and now,
Yeah.
and that's now, as we have all the sanctions we have, that's mainly coming out of the US, I must say, blocking down that, and then the secrecy we all have in China or in North Korea and other countries, Iran. So there is a lot of geopolitics involved in creating barriers, in both ways, and this is certainly hindering the free flow of information. By the way, in 2006, when I was on the PMI board for the first time, so we had a scenario planning exercise and strategy development, and so we really had, and you always have two axes, where you put scenarios in the four quadrants and what they are. And one of our axes we agreed on was free flow of anything, of goods and of information. No, it's a very important aspect what is covered by this question. So how do we travel? How is free flow of information, of goods, everything? And with the internet, free flow is really being not so easily contained. So the European Union blocked all Russian news outlets, and you can still, if you look at them, you can read them here freely. So it's the internet is not really blockable.
I mean, in a way, it's blockable. You can control all the providers. Hey, guys, no more interview. Especially in the war and situation where government just shut all the internet. Nobody's allowed to get anything anyway. So this can happen. But yes, how ideas, objects, and practices traveling around the world now, especially you talked about being as an internet or new apps are coming, new way of sharing information happening, cloud technologies are coming up already here. All this helps to share the information idea, like we're talking now over the this kind of remote link. You're in Germany, I'm in US, but we still talk because of all the power of internet.
Right.
So we're sharing ideas, and whether you go to physically conference or talk like this, you're still sharing ideas. You're inspiring other people by sitting millions of miles away from each other.
Yeah, you're right.
So how policies and governing arrangements are assembled in practice?
In practice, so we can. It's different from area to area, and in the beginning I talked about Norway, but every project there's a practice, and a regulation, a law that the king has designed every project charter when the project goes beyond a certain sum, and we talked about Russia and the project management regulation, and the US and the project program management legislation, and the EU has something. So every, let's say, nation, every country has its own way to do things and focus to do things, and that's a little bit a problem because there's nothing really globally standardized in making the policies work for everybody, and it's hard to do that in the current situation. So the Chinese will do their stuff, and the North Koreans do, Iranians their stuff, and Russians their stuff, and even there is a project management standard decided by OECD, which is a wide conglomerate of countries. But it's not really, developed and going for. So we have to rely on the national policies and arrangements and laws, and it's a pity, at some point of time, maybe if the United Nations come up and understand the worth of projects and project management and how to standardize it, then maybe something happens. But I think it's still some years from now. By the way, the UK is also very strong. The UK, in my knowledge, is the first country who made a law about what a professional project manager is. This is a chartered project manager. So the Queen at this time, she signed the Royal Charter, and so you can be certified by the APM in the UK, and then you are a UK acknowledged project professional, which is comparable to being a UK government acknowledged medical doctor, or these professions are then at this level, which is not the case in most countries of the world.
Yeah, good thoughts. But I like to talk about Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia, and most people know about how it was to now. It's a very progressive country now, and that is driven by the government actually having a 2030 vision for the whole country, not a particular department or company. It's talking whole country moving towards a particular direction, which is very unusual to have, the country creating a vision, and all the department organizations are working towards satisfying that 2030 vision.
I agree.
So my next or last question is, what method or approaches can be used to evaluate and measure the quality of project based on specific criteria?
Well, yeah, I'm not sure how it is related to projectification, but we know the knowledge area of quality management in projects, and we know the importance of quality in programs and in portfolios, and so there has been a lot of standards, and actually quality management was a area of concern even before project management was it, with all these developments, deeming and URAN and you name it, and I think we are very much settled with quality management policies, regulations, standards, what you have, and we are using it in projects. So I understand my big project when I had some development, I always had a guy who was a quality manager for my project, and he developed his own quality management plan, and he understood what his requirements were and what the criteria were to check, the quality in the project. And he was widely independent. They always fought to be even on the same level as the project manager, as myself, but I somehow resisted to that. Nevertheless, there were some quality people outside of my project. So if you have a quality audit in a company like IBM, they come out of other countries and visit your project, and you have to show what you're doing and why you're doing and what is happening. So I think we are pretty much settled with quality management. And we have to remember, projects are about the future, and nobody can predict the future. We can try to find ways how to deal with these uncertainties, and quality management is one way how we can do it.
Yeah, I mean, from my point of view, I think there are a lot of things has been done or being done. Thinking about the balance scorecard and KPIs, key performance indicators, and why this question here when you talk about societal or government, whatever we do as a project, whether we're doing Saudi Arabia 2030, so there is a dashboard has to be there. Whether you're running a project within a NGO or a government department, having a right structure, a dashboard to see what was expected and what you've done. That is where, and also there can be rewards recognition, how to make sure that if you're not on track, if you're not updating your information. Nowadays, some systems are coming up with the real-time information. As a senior leader, you can see hey, what is happening in each project? Why this project is red? Let me call the project manager. Fix it now. And if there's impact on if this project delayed, there's impact on other corresponding projects because of the interdependency among them. That kind of thing will definitely add value to the organization and to the country and the society in a larger way.
Yeah. Well, and we don't have to forget that quality is not only adherence to requirements, and the measurability, but it's also satisfaction of customers, of the people who are receiving our products, our project results.
Exactly.
And, you also have to make sure that you manage their expectations and do the human part of quality management.
Yeah, fantastic. Look, Thomas, fantastic working with you. It was really, it's a long, but a lot of questions, a lot of discussion. But thank you for your insightfulness and your examples and your way of discussing. See, the complex topic, you make it simple. So thank you for bringing this knowledge. And I'm sure people listening, they're delighted to see that there's some free information available, which is shared by Thomas, the legend, and and we'll keep bringing more topic, more discussion. But thank you for your contribution.
Thank you very much, Dharam, for running this show for some time now. And as you see, even if we are late in the evening, it's getting dark. My background is getting dark because outside there's no light anymore. And still happy to discuss with you and to share some of my ideas and wisdoms. And it never ends. So I had my project experience for 31 years with IBM customers, but still after that, you see a lot of things and you learn a lot of things and read a lot of books, and it's very interesting.
Yeah, this is what the life is all about, learning, lifelong learners. So, and guys, keep learning, keep watching. We have so many podcast video now, and probably 53 with you, Thomas, already, and a lot with Justin, Reinhard, and many others. So please keep watching, keep learning, and share with your friends and family. Why not? And the learning, if you're learning, why not let them also know that this is something they can find useful. So,
great.
Yeah, thank you again, and thanks for watching, and thanks for keep motivating us as well.
Thank you.
Until next time, thank you and see you. Take care.
Bye-bye.